What is up? I wanted to come on here and talk about Project Hail Mary and kind of my experience watching the film, as well as talk about broadly this film in general and also the book. So, Project Hail Mary has been a project I've been like aware of for years at this point, probably back in 2021 when the novel released. I purchased that book, uh, and I've tried to read it probably at least three times. Every single time I dropped off of it, stopped reading it, couldn't do it. And I've always been interested in this film, or not this film, this book, mainly from the angle of Andy Weir, the writer who wrote Project Hail Mary, wrote The Martian, a book that I read when that movie came out and kind of absolutely loved the book. I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie when it came out back in the day, when nearly 10 years, I think more than 10 years ago, maybe. But I rewatched the movie recently. Unrelated. The Martian's like incredible. I love The Martian, but Project Hail Mary. I loved the book of The Martian, so I was looking forward to reading Project Hail Mary from Andy Weir, and it took until this movie coming out to for me to finish it. So this I'm recording this on the Saturday, a day after the movie came out. I finished the book on the Monday, and honestly, it made probably the film experience worse. But the story of Project Hail Mary and the book itself is simply incredible. Um, I guess we'll start with the book. Like the writing in the book is incredible. I absolutely the way Andy Weir specifically with The Martian and Project Hail Mary, the way he writes like these first person characters and like really dedicates himself to making the science feel plausible and real, even though I know probably for a fact that it's probably not, and I'm not in any science field, so like I have nothing to really explain that away. But Project Hail Mary, I feel like as a premise is really great. I think it gets insanely good once you introduce the character of Rocky. Um, Rocky, to simply put, book or movie, is one of the greatest characters for me. I absolutely adore Rocky. Um, and the thing with the book that I really love is this sort of sense of progression and this like sort of plot of these two characters and like the journey they go on is like really great. And I loved kind of them exploring what's going to happen to them. I love the nitty gritty details. My favorite part, big spoiler that I feel like not knowing actually makes both these projects better, is the fact that Rocky speaks. I didn't know that reading Project Hail Mary or going before this movie was coming out. I didn't know that until I watched one trailer in when I was in theaters, and I absolutely like I was pissed because I didn't want to know that Rocky spoke. It's very much a big spoiler, and I wish I didn't know it. But when I learned that Rocky speaks and I started reading that he spoke, it kind of completely changes Project Hail Mary from just your run of the mill sci-fi project into something kind of incredible. Rocky is amazing. I love him. I love reading about him. I reading the book. I the stuff that happens similarly in the movie. I was utterly shocked and engaged like the entire way. Once Rocky was introduced and once he was doing stuff, I was fully in and I loved it. And I loved it. I love um the the only criticism I have with the book that kind of carries over to the movie as well is largely the sort of flashback stuff. I think it's really great. I love the flashback stuff. I love learning more about Ryland Grace and the project itself. They're great. I love the scenes themselves. They're great, and I love the characters. However, in the book, and even more so in the movie, they abandon the sort of purpose of the flashbacks, that they are um, meant to draw Ryland Grace's story and like kind of slowly build up his story in full. Eventually, it kind of gets eliminated as a sort of um like thing that's reoccurring, because it would jump back and forth, but then it would be reinforced in the modern or the present scenes, and that worked really well. But eventually they abandoned that, and then they only bring it back for the last final blow of actually how he ended up on the mission. And I kind of wish it kind of was reinforced better and like used I wish they planted the seeds a little bit more for the flashbacks to make it make sense for the present day sequences. But they're really great scenes anyway. But Project Hail Mary, excellent book. I fully recommend the book. It's incredible. I love reading it. But now the movie. Let's talk about this movie. Going into it after reading the book, I was very curious how everything was gonna turn out. Like, how the hell are they gonna handle this flashback stuff? How are they gonna handle Rocky? How are they gonna do all of this? And in a lot of ways, they achieve exactly what I would have wanted. Visually, this movie is incredible. One of like the best looking movies I've seen in a while. I love the colors. I love just the visual style. I love the set, and the production design is incredible. Like, I loved that. I loved seeing the Project Hail Mary. I loved seeing the Hail Mary. It was an incredible looking ship, and I loved seeing all the interiors, and I loved like its sort of style, which a style that wasn't visually what I imagined reading the book, but it still worked really well, and I loved it. I loved seeing it, and it was just really cool to see that ship. And I loved the sequences where they showed it doing its thing to turn into a centrifuge. Fucking incredible stuff. I loved it. The thing that's keeping me from absolutely loving this film is the a little bit choppiness of that story. So most of the story that's in the book is here, but there's a lot of things that get like slightly chopped in favor of it being as concise as it can be, which leads to things being a little, not, I want to say confusing, because I understood it because of reading the book, but I feel like for non-book the people who didn't read the book, things can get a little confusing, and I feel like it's been unfortunate because I would have wanted more of it. Like, the main thing I wanted more of is just mostly the second half mostly the third act was a bit rushed in my opinion. I feel like they could have expanded that more. I didn't like how all the stuff with the breeding tanks was done entirely only by Ryland and not with Rocky, because Rocky's pivotal to that stuff and it's really great. And they kind of be like, oh yeah, and they also never like explain like the probes and all this other stuff. They like don't explain it, which is kind of disappointing actually. I honestly would love to see like if there's like a longer cut, that there's like cut scenes, because honestly, for the most part, the things that I like most about it is that connection of Rocky and Ryland. James Orts does a great job playing Rocky. I feel like he nails Rocky, and anytime he was on, anytime Rocky was doing anything, I was in love. I loved it so much. I thought my favorite scene probably in the film was probably the scene where Ryan Gosling or Ryland Grace Ryland Grace learns that he's going to be able to go back home. I thought they did a really great job just portraying that scene, and it did get me teared up. I was tearing up when that happened, because the performances of both Rocky and Ryan Gosling. And my main criticism really, besides like the choppiness of this, is the humor. I feel like the humor was a bit more subdued in the book. Most of the humor came from that Rocky and Ryland connection and like the misunderstanding of things, but the movie kind of tries to do more of it felt more marvelly in like the terms of a humor, which I didn't really dig fully, but I for the most part was okay with it. It was a bit more it was a little maybe a little too jokey at times. I feel like eventually the humor of Rocky doing stuff kind of vanishes in the book, more so because he becomes like a fleshed out character, and that's I think the biggest thing is Ryland Grace as a character I feel like is mischaracterized in the film. I feel like I never thought of him as um like a schlub guy who's like clumsy and like jokey. Like he is jokey, but not in like the way Ryan Gosling portrays him. And I feel like it's not even a criticism of Ryan Gosling. It's definitely a very much like a screenplay issue where I just feel like they didn't fully understand who this character was, because at the end of the day, yes, he was a middle school teacher, and even though he was insanely smart, but he's still insanely smart, and he's still like isn't in like incompetent, and like I feel like they kind of gloss over like the maybe it's because there's not as much nitty gritty of the science and him doing things like, oh, him constructing this computer to translate Rocky's speech using like an Excel spreadsheet and like coding like a random script to do things. Like maybe it's because they didn't go like that deep, but I kind of wish we got a little bit more of that, of this like, yeah, this guy's really smart. Like, yeah, he's joking around, but like sometimes, but he's also like, they're in a life or death situation and they're trying to save both their planets, and it's like important. I, but yeah, but overall the film is really good. I had a lot of fun watching it. Visually incredible, but yeah, Project Hail Mary in general, specifically, I want to shout out the book quite a lot. Like, I guess I'll shout out both, but movie's really good, but the book is like on another level. But also, Rocky is like incredible in both, and kind of the scene stealer of everything. Like, I just love him. I just love Rocky, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of my take on Project Hail Mary. Check it out if you want to. Yeah, thank you.